Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today, for the Christmas season, we're doing a Christmas movie. We're doing the classic Home Alone from 1990. Directed by Chris Columbus, written by John Hughes, starring Macaulay Culkin, Joe Pesci, Daniel Stern, John Hurd, Roberts Blossom as Old Man Marley, and the great Catherine O'Hara, amongst many others. John Candy also is in this movie. I couldn't forget about him. But a lot of actors who played the bajillion kids that are in this movie for the McAllister family, including Kieran Culkin, Macaulay's little brother. So this was, if I recall correctly, John Hughes wrote the movie Uncle Buck, which Macaulay Culkin was in. And I believe John Hughes was so impressed with Macaulay Culkin that he wrote this film for him, and it turned Macaulay Culkin into a megastar.
Yeah, definitely. I love Uncle Buck. That is my favorite. Both John Candy and Macaulay Culkin. Those are my favorite movie from them. But yeah,
you like Uncle Buck more than Home Alone?
Yes.
Wow.
Even more than Home Alone. We'll get into it, but I would say that Macaulay Culkin is probably the most iconic child star ever.
Yeah, I would maybe argue Shirley Temple might be number one, Macaulay Culkin number two, but yeah, he's definitely in the running for sure.
Yeah.
But he was in the 90s. I mean, he was, after this movie,
he was everywhere. He was everywhere. He had these two movies, Home Alone, Home Alone 2, Richie Rich, Page Master, which I love, severely underrated movie.
He did
The Good
My
Son.
Girl.
The
Good Son.
Yeah. My
With
Girl.
Elijah Wood. Yeah. Plus he did the Michael Jackson music video, Black and White.
Yeah.
Black and White. And I mean, he was doing, he was everywhere. I remember so I used to subscribe as a kid to a Disney magazine called Disney Adventures. It was a small little magazine for kids. And I remember him being on the cover and being interviewed so many times for that magazine. But yeah, he's fantastic in this movie. Obviously, he carries the movie.
Yeah.
And John Hughes saw in Macaulay Culkin that he could do that. And this movie's, I mean, it's a classic, and it's something I rewatch every year. And I was lucky enough I actually remember seeing this in the theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I came home. I don't think my dad had gotten to see it. My dad might have been out of town or something and got home like while we were seeing the movie or something. Cause I remember coming home and basically just ruining the entire movie for my dad, telling him like every scene and how much I loved it and everything. Cause this was, I'd have to look at when the release date was, but I assume it was around the Christmas season of 1990, which would have made me 7 years old.
Yeah, it had to be November or December. So
yeah, it had to have been, right? It was, November 16th. Hey, that's actually my dad's birthday. I don't know if we saw it on opening day, but we went and saw it in the theater. I do remember, and just thinking it was incredible. And actually, this was, pre-internet. I remember we rented a movie from Blockbuster or Hollywood Video, probably Blockbuster back then. And, remember on VHS tapes how there were always previews before the movie started. I don't remember what I rented, but I remember they showed a trailer for Home Alone 2, and that was the first I'd heard that they were making a second one. And it blew my mind. I was beyond excited. I was probably like running around the house being like, they made another one. They made another one. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
I really love this movie as a kid and as an adult. As an adult, I started to really appreciate, as a kid, I just thought it was hilarious, and I wanted, thought he was a cool kid and thought it was cool that he was able to stop the robbers and stuff. As an adult, I think this movie is actually really well written, and I see the comedy in the other characters a lot more too, like Catherine O'Hara and John Hurd and Uncle Frank who's a terrible human being.
Yeah, Uncle Frank is terrible. I don't have the attachment to this movie as everyone else does. Don't get me wrong. It's a good movie. That we're not. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy it, but it's not something that I have to watch every single year. Honestly, I hadn't watched this movie probably for like a well over a decade. Before maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. It's just, I don't know. There's nothing that I dislike about it. It's just I don't have the attachment to it
Sure.
as I do some other Christmas movies. Like the Santa Claus is my all-time favorite. That will never ever change. Like I love that movie. But this is a really good movie. It's a great movie. I too have learned to appreciate it more as an adult, because the same thing. It's very well written, and as an adult, as a kid, you don't really realize how emotional the movie is, and you can see a lot of that stuff through grown up eyes.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about the attachment, my wife, who is 3 years younger than me, prefers Home Alone 2. And I think it's because she saw it first. She didn't go see movies in the theater like I did as a kid. So her parents might have just rented the second Home Alone, and she watched it, really, really enjoyed it. And since those movies are so basically the same movie, just in a different setting, I can understand liking the second one more than the first one if you saw it first.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. I prefer the first one personally. I still like the second one a lot, but I think the first one is better. I actually, the same, the way my wife feels about Home Alone 2 is kind of how I am with, and this is going to be blasphemous to some people, but I like Escape from LA more than Escape from New York, because I saw Escape from LA first. Escape from LA is also campier and not as serious in tone as Escape from New York, which is why I think another reason why a lot of people don't like it. But I saw it and thought it was incredible because I really just connected with the tone of the movie, I guess, and thought it was amazing. And then when I saw Escape from New York, I thought it was good and I like it, but I didn't connect with it in the same way that I did with Escape from LA. But it's because and those movies also have like the exact same plot. It's it's the same thing, different setting. So it's very much like these two movies. But yeah, those are movies that I would like to talk about one day. But we just haven't.
I've never seen them. I haven't seen either one.
Really? I'm tempted to tell you to watch LA first, like I did, but I don't know. So. I don't know if you should watch New York first, because if you watch New York first, I don't think you may not like LA, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay, we'll see.
So one thing I kind of noticed watching this movie today, or I watched it yesterday actually, but watching this movie this time, Kevin's a bit of a brat in the beginning of the film. He's not a great kid.
Yeah,
calls his mom a dummy, which would have never flown in my house.
Man, every time he does that, I cringe. I was watching it with my mom today actually, and when it got to that part, I was scared. Like I looked over at my mom and she looked at me, and then I looked back at the TV.
You're like, he said it, not me.
Legit he said scared. Like, bro, I would have been unalived if I had said that to my mom.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But what I was on, so like, yes, Kevin is a brat in the beginning of the movie, very much so. But the rest of his family is not much better. Like his brothers and sisters are all jerks to him, and even Uncle Frank, which I love the way he delivers the line. Look what you did, you little jerk. Nobody's like his dad isn't like, okay, Frank, let's not be crazy. But then let's say the dad is upset enough that he lets Uncle Frank say that. Then his brother goes, Kevin, you're such a disease. And nobody says anything. Like, no parent is like, all right, let's stop with the name calling. You know, he's just like, they're like, yeah, you're right. Kevin, you're pretty terrible.
Right.
Go upstairs.
Right.
So they're, you know, and I guess it's to push Kevin to make him be like, you all suck. You know, I hate you all. And I hope I never see you again. Also, there's like an ADR or voiceover, actually, when he finally ends up going upstairs and he's upstairs by himself. There's like a voiceover where he says, I should have written it down, but he basically kind of like is like, I hope when I wake up, I don't ever, you know, they're not around or I don't see them or something like that. He kind of makes like a wish. Yeah. And I really I wish that wasn't in the movie, because the very next scene is like, I remember thinking as a kid that he was like, his wish was being granted by some supernatural force, because the very next scene is the storm building outside the house. And just the way the camera moves on, like, especially on that wreath with Santa, which always kind of almost scared me as a kid. It was like a kind of a creepy shot, but like the wind moving and everything, it almost felt to me like it was some genie or something granting Kevin's wish. And I just wish that piece of ADR or voiceover I didn't need to be in the movie, in my opinion. He says everything in the scene before with his mom about how I hope I never see you again. You know, so the little bit of maybe I'll go back to that scene and try to find exactly what that line is.
Yeah, I never thought that it was like magic or anything,
right?
Because I do remember that line. I mean, I don't know exactly what he said, but I do remember that moment in that scene. But I never really thought that it was magic. I just thought his parents were just extremely neglectful.
Which they are.
And his dad is rich. Like, his dad has a lot of money to have that big a house and fly 15 people to Paris. Like,
I don't know what he does, but I want that job.
Oh, I got a clue of what he does.
Yeah. Oh, he says, I wish they would all just disappear. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that was necessary, in my opinion. But what do you think the dad does?
He sells drugs. How else would he be able to afford that?
Oh man.
Why, if he was doing something legal, they would have told us. They didn't tell us because he's clearly doing something illegal.
Interesting. And that's why
there is snow on the outside and the inside of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Why else do you think they're so neglectful?
Right.
And you know what else is terrible? The fact that they're eating that burnt pizza with milk. Who does that?
Make sure you drink milk. It's no, that's gross. Yeah, that's no, pizza and milk makes me just want to throw up. That is disgusting. Yeah, that is disgusting. Milk in general makes me want to throw up. My mom used to, like, when I was a kid, she would make some dinner that would, it was a good dinner, but then she would give me to drink chocolate milk, and chocolate milk with whatever we were eating just was not a good combination.
Bruh, they do that all the time with kids, especially like with school lunches. Mm-hmm. Like you'll have a cheese pizza with chocolate milk, or a cheeseburger with chocolate milk. It's like, no, like, give me some juice.
yeah, exactly. Ugh. Yeah, I agree. Milk and pizza does not sound like a good combination. I'm assuming you've seen this movie 100 times, just like I have. So, but I remember, the first few times I saw the movie, especially as a kid, I never really noticed it, that when they're cleaning up that mess, they throw away Kevin's airline ticket.
Yeah.
So it goes in the trash.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't always notice that, but I noticed it maybe like 2 years ago when I watched it for Christmas.
Yeah. At first, I was like, well, why does that matter? Because when they get to the gate, they just hand that woman all the tickets and she's like, go ahead, which is, it's funny. This, to see like pre 9/11 airport security was not the same. But I realized it's because I think the older sister or somebody hands out the tickets, right? At like when they're in the vans. And if they had Kevin's, they would have realized he wasn't there. Right. So by handing out all the tickets and Kevin's being gone, they don't think about it.
Right.
Also, I think John Hughes is a genius to have that little kid come over and ask all those questions to the airport shuttle guys, which I love both of their responses. Gee, kid, I don't know. Hit the road. And then, I told you before, kid, don't bother me. But when they're doing the head count, and she just taps his head, and the kid doesn't even, flinch or go, I'm not part of the group, because he's in his own world. I just think it's genius. I think John Hughes, for the most part, did a really good job of figuring out all the holes that you could kind of be like, well, why would they?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that comes from being meticulous with the script and going over it several times, because I'm sure throwing away the ticket and the kid weren't in the first draft, may not even have been in the second draft. Right. I'm pretty sure those things came along as he was rewriting over, and just had to make sure all the loose ends were tied, all of the holes were filled, because we had to make sure that we show how terrible these parents are to forget their own child.
Right.
Because I don't care what your head count, your tickets. If you don't see your child's face, that is an alarm. Like, I just
right. And I get I give John Hughes credit again, because by making them oversleep and have to rush, the mom doesn't have time to do the head count herself and to check, because she asks I don't even think it's her daughter. It must be, because she tells Joe Pesci in the beginning that her parents don't live there. Yeah. So she's like a niece or something, but the niece says, everybody's here. And Catherine O'Hara's character is just like, okay, I trust you because I don't have time to do it myself. But, any responsible parent would be like, okay, cool. I'm just going to go look just to make sure, Right. Right. But I like how, because of the time crunch, and when they're leaving the house, they must live really close to the airport, because Uncle Frank says when they're leaving, the flight leaves in 45 minutes, and they make it to the gate just in time. So they got from their house to the airport to their gate within 45 minutes, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, because whenever you go to the airport, it's at least 30 minutes from the time you walk in the door to the time you get to the gate, get to your gate. If you get there early enough, if your flight is at 5 and you get there at 4, you can forget it, bro.
Right. Yeah.
Especially pretty down much here.
Yeah. And granted, security wasn't the same as it is nowadays. Like, you didn't have to take off your shoes and your belt and all that stuff. But still, you still had to go through security back then. So, yeah, I mean, it was still, so that's impressive.
Is where do they live? They live in Chicago?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's not a not busy airport.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I'm curious why, this is such an interesting movie for Joe Pesci. Because before this movie, if I could be mistaken, but before this movie, I don't think he'd really done any family friendly stuff. He was in Goodfellas and Raging Bull and, whatever else before 1990. Actually, I think Goodfellas came out in 1990. So
yeah, I think it was the same year. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was in Goodfellas and Home Alone the same year. I don't know who convinced him to do this movie, but I'm glad they did, because he's amazing in it. Number one, but number two, I think he's I don't know if we'd ever really seen like him do comedy like this before. Maybe he had, and I just can't think of the movie, but yeah, whoever thought of Joe Pesci was really smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he did more comedy roles after this movie. He did, obviously he did the sequel, My Cousin Vinny.
Oh yeah, that's right.
There's another movie, Gone Fishing with Danny Glover.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen that, but I do remember
bag. Was that
like
a comedy?
previews. Yeah,
right.
that is a comedy. Yep. So I think this may have been his first comedy.
Yeah, I without I could look at his IMDb, but I think you're probably right, and I feel like this. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was his idea. Maybe he wanted to do comedy to kind of prove that he could do it, and and open the door to some other projects. Because listing those movies, I was like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. He's done more comedy than I realized. But I love him in this movie, and I love Daniel Stern as Marv, and I think they are so good together.
They have Joe such Pesci good chemistry.
And Harry and Marv.
They feel so like good. They've been in cahoots with each other for years.
Right, yeah. Especially like after they show him robbing that one house, and when Marv comes out and he's like smiling to himself or laughing, and Harry he's like, "You did it again, didn't you? You turned the water on, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're sick." He's like, "That's a sick thing." We're the wet bandits. I was gonna say, I wonder. There's a commentary on this Blu-ray that I have not listened to with Chris Columbus and Macaulay Culkin, but I'm curious if, really? On my Blu-ray there is. Yeah, I wonder if the scenes towards the end of the film when they're going through all the traps, and Joe Pesci's having to do that. If he couldn't help but like just let F words fly like when they were shooting it, and I wonder if somebody had to be like, Joe, you can't say those things. I'm
pretty sure there are 2 or 3 takes with a F-bomb in there.
Probably.
He's so used to saying them in other movies.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
There apparently on the internet a couple of years ago, there were people that hadn't realized that Joe Pesci was the cop in the beginning of the movie. I'm like, did you even watch the movie? I was like, they're not hiding that fact. Like, that's not an Easter egg. Like, he is there prominently for like 10 minutes in that scene.
Yeah, exactly.
He's literally standing in the middle of the floor. Like, how do you, how did that even become a thing? I maybe it was a joke, but like, I'm thinking that it wasn't, because there were people in the comments that were like legitimately,
we're like, what?
Baffled by that. I'm like, how did you not see? Like, did you not watch it?
Did you start the movie late every time?
Right.
And then if that happened, they'd be confused when Kevin sees Harry in the van and Harry smiles at him, he sees the gold tooth, and he goes,
yeah.
Which, by the way, when he almost hits him, that's my absolute favorite scene in the movie. I just love Chris Columbus did a fantastic job with that moment, where you see Macaulay Culkin and the van is like right on his face, and he just goes, bah! Like, he doesn't move backwards or anything. He just stands there and screams. It makes me laugh every time. It was amazing direction.
I hadn't realized that. I did now, but maybe like a couple of years ago, when I watched it, I hadn't realized that all of the things that most people remember from the movie, like with the traps, that's at the end of the movie. Right. People always talk about the traps, and when people describe the movie, they always describe that part, and that's only a small part of the movie. It's hilarious, but it's just funny how that one scene has become the whole movie.
Right. And that's when I think that kind of occurred to me as I got older too, because when as a kid, those are the scenes that like stood out the most to me were all the traps and everything. That was like the funniest stuff to me. And if you had asked me like as a kid what the movie was about, I would have been like, well, this kid gets left behind and these burglars try to come to his house and he has to set all these traps, which is really not the plot of the movie. That's like the last 20 minutes. Right. It's the third act of the film.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you watch like an hour and 20 minutes of the movie, and they're building up to it, but it's not, that's not what the movie really is.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of, it's interesting how, and as a kid, I still loved the movie, even though it took that long to get to those traps and everything. Because I'm sure that was all in the trailers and stuff, you know? Yeah. It's also really interesting to me how this face became such an iconic thing. Like, it's such a little, he does it twice, I guess, in the movie where he pats his face and then goes, ah! And like, for whatever reason, that became like the iconic Home Alone face, you know? I don't know that I was kind of thought that was interesting / weird, because even Home Alone 2, it's like, I think it's on the newspaper on the poster of the Statue of Liberty doing the face, you know? It's just that's the Home Alone face for whatever reason.
Another thing that people that's like a Mandela effect, people think that the movie that Kevin is watching is a real movie.
Right.
And I'm like, when have you ever seen this anywhere outside of this movie?
Right. As a kid, I always just kind of assumed it was a real movie, but then again, once I got older, I realized, oh no, this is a movie that was shot for this movie. Because like all the dialogue, especially when the second movie came out, it became even more obvious because it's the same actor in a different scene that fits that movie perfectly.
Right. The dialogue fits the situation perfectly.
Right, exactly. I do want to see, actually, there's another, I'm assuming it's just that scene, because obviously they didn't shoot more than that, but there's a special feature on my Blu-ray that just says Angels with Filthy Souls. So I'm guessing it's just, you can watch that clip, I guess.
I need to watch it.
But as a kid, again, that was another thing that I still love it. I think it's great, the way that Kevin is able to, like when he orders the pizza, and the guy's like, well, you have to pay for your pizza, sir. Is that a fact?
Is that a fact?
Like, the way he rewinds,
how much are
you? He would never, in real life, he would never be able to rewind it and stop and play with such precision that Kevin does, but it works really well in the movie.
I'm gonna give you to the count of 10 to get the hell off my property. 1, 2, 10.
And I like how maybe if he had the volume up enough, it just kind of freaked the pizza guy out. But I like how he was smart enough to put the firecrackers in the pot for when Marv is at the door.
Yeah,
because then it really made it seem like there was actual gunfire going on in there.
Yeah, I thought of that too. I think he knew that he was dealing with adults and they were smarter than that pizza guy. He was like, I got to make this convincing. So Kevin is extremely smart, extremely resourceful. So
we also see that with when he's running away from him. So when he recognizes Harry's like, I don't like the way that kid looked at me. Let's see what house he goes to. And he runs from him, and they think he ran into the church, but he actually went to the nativity scene. That's just I don't know if I would have thought of that as a 9-year-old or however old he is.
Absolutely not. I would have went home like a dummy.
Right, exactly. I would have run. Yeah, I would have run home because that's where I would have thought I was safe. Yeah, exactly. There's so speaking of online whatever about this movie, I saw a few years back a like conspiracy theory where the scene where Catherine O'Hara is it's right before John Candy shows up. So she's at the ticket counter trying to get a flight to Chicago. It's like the third or fourth time she's basically at a ticket counter somewhere trying to get home. And there's a woman behind Catherine O'Hara, and then there's a bearded man behind her. There are a group of people, I don't know if they still believe it, but there are a group of people who believe that bearded man is Elvis Presley. That they believe that Elvis did not die and instead became a background actor in the movie Home Alone.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. It just makes me laugh that there are people that are like, this is Elvis. That's Elvis Presley. This is proof that he did not die.
You think that this man stayed out of the just faked his death, stayed out of the public eye for 20 years and just decided to randomly show up in this holiday family movie?
Right. In the background where
just
people
to
could
mess
potentially
with you.
recognize him. Right,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. I think it's great. How do you feel about John Candy in this film?
I always forget that he's in the movie. Every time.
It's kind of a small role for John Candy. I know John Candy and John Hughes were good friends, and so he probably did it, for John Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's kind of a small role, but he does a great job with it. I love when he first meets Catherine
I love
O'Hara,
when he shows up for sure.
and he's like, I can't even remember his actual, like, his character's name, Gus something or other, but he's like, Polka King of the Midwest, Kenosha Kickers, and she's like, and he's like, okay, I thought maybe you'd heard of me or something, and like, you think it's gonna be done, and he's like, we had a couple of hits, polka, 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 he just keeps going, and she's like, what are these songs? And he was like, anyway, he just plays it so well. And then I absolutely love his story where he's trying to make Catherine O'Hara feel better, and she's like, yeah, but did you ever go on vacation and leave your kid home alone? And he's like, no, but we did leave him at a funeral parlor once. He was like, yeah, all day there with a corpse
all day.
He was like, but he was okay. He's 6 or 7 weeks. He started talking again. And then, and then she goes, okay, can we not talk about it? And he goes, well, you brought it up. He's like,
John Williams' score for this movie is fantastic. Oh my goodness. Good. If there were, like, Harry Potter, that is magical, but this right here is special. The score for this movie
it's actually
is so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually put a lot of this score. I make I made a Christmas playlist of different, classic songs, and I add the music from this movie because it feels like Christmas. It's part of Christmas for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this score is
you got to send me John that
Williams. Playlist. Okay, I will.
I love Christmas music.
I even have Carol of the Bells from Batman Arkham Origins in there because it's kind of a darker kind of version of Carol of the
Bells. I thought I was the only one that listened to that during the holiday
Christmas
season. I love that rendition of Carol of the Bells because it's really Joker's good theme song. I was like, that's genius. Because Carol of the Bells already sounds kind of creepy, and I think that's why I like it. And to make that his theme song is genius.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy. You're like me.
We are very similar, Stu. You want to talk about some of the traps and stuff? The third act. The part of the movie that everybody loves? What's
your favorite trap?
Oh man, that's a good question, actually. I do really like the flamethrower over the door with Joe Pesci when he walks. Again, it's one of those reactions that is so unrealistic but so funny. Yeah. Where he just is going, whoa, while his head is on fire.
And I'm glad you said that because all of their reactions to these traps are so cartoony, but it's so funny because it's so cartoony. But that is that's one of my favorites. And Marv on the steps. I love that scene. Marv's reactions are better than Harry's reactions.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, Marv is more fun to watch in that whole sequence, and the cherry on top. Probably, I said my favorite scene in the movie was the van almost hitting Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
This might actually be my favorite scene in the movie is the tarantula on Marv's face.
Because his scream
is perfect. That scream is amazing. Watching it the other day, I've seen this movie 100 times, but watching it the other day, I had to rewind it and watch it again just because it's so good.
Yeah,
he's so good. So there was something I noticed this time. So the first thing I noticed was before the traps, actually, when they first go to break into the house and Kevin actually sees like their silhouette against the window, which is perfect because you can see like the crowbars they're carrying and stuff. And he's like, and he goes on and he just starts flipping all the lights on. They go down the stairs to like break into the basement, and the light comes on and they immediately go, I thought you said nobody was home. And they're like, they were supposed to leave for Paris yesterday or whatever. And they go, let's get out of here. And they leave. It never occurred to me in the very beginning of the movie, John Hurd's character tells Joe Pesci, well, we got automatic timers on all the lights and we've got locks on all our doors.
Locks on, yeah.
So you would think when they were about to do that and the light came on, Joe Pesci would have gone, no, they got timers on their lights. Yeah. And they would have just broken in.
And he pointed out all the neighbors that, you know, their lights were
that had the automatic lights
coming on.
Right. Yeah. So unless John Hurd meant the outside lights, because that's what Joe Pesci kind of points out is all the decoration lights that are coming on. And he probably points to the McAllister house. I don't remember, but but you would think most people put automatic lights on the inside to make it look like people are home.
Right.
But I thought that was something that stood out to me watching it this time. I was like, you would think they would be.
You might be right. He may have been referring to the lights outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would make sense, and that would had no reason to think that the lights inside were going to be on.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. So like if they have automatic lights on the outside and Joe Pesci has seen that, you know, he pointed and they came on. Yeah, why would the lights on the inside? Okay, so I guess I can buy that and go with that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I noticed was, so Marv slips down the icy stairs, and watching him try to stand up is amazing. But he goes in and goes up, gets like the tar on his foot and falls back down. And I love when he goes back outside and you hear him slip and he goes, whoop! and then the crowbar falls. But right after that scene, or actually during the whole tar scene, is Marv getting the flames on his head and putting it out in the snow, and then he kicks in that back door and then slams it behind him, and then we immediately cut to Marv coming up the stairs, passing that door, and then seeing the window and going, Harry, I'm coming in. And I was like, why didn't he go for the door?
Right. Like the door's right there.
The door's right there. So I thought that was kind of interesting, especially because he's actually on the stairs. He's probably lying at the bottom of the stairs because we see him go out there and then fall. But he's lying down there when Joe Pesci kicks in the door and then slams it. So he heard that door open and close. Potentially, he's right there.
Right.
So I don't know why he would bypass the door. Unless it's just, so that was just kind of, that's one thing where that's like, I guess, I don't know if you would consider that a goof or an error or not, but.
Maybe he thought that there was another trap
on the door.
So he was like, that's probably what he wants me to do is use the door. And then, so I'm going to use a window.
Could be. I mean, he just walks right by it. He just comes up those stairs and stomps right past that door and then sees the window and he's like, I'm going to go this way. And then when he puts his feet down on the ornaments, he slams his feet down.
Yeah, he does. Oh, man.
But I always thought that was kind of interesting, too, that it just shows you how smart Kevin is, I guess. Kevin knew that one of them was going to go downstairs, get tar on his shoes so he'd be barefoot, and then would come up the stairs, bypass the back door, and go in through the window to step barefoot on ornaments. Suspension of disbelief, I guess.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away my enjoyment from the movie.
Do they always go in the door when they rob other people?
I don't know if we ever actually see them breaking into another house. They're already inside.
They're already in. Yeah.
So I don't know. But they have the crowbars, so we assume they break in through a door. Because, I mean, that's how they were going to break into the McAllister's house originally, was they went down to the basement door, and they were going to use the crowbar on the door, and then the lights freaked them out, and they left.
Yeah, I guess you had to suspend your disbelief. Or just, Marv is just stupid.
Which he is, so I guess that's maybe, Kevin probably was like, okay, this guy's
not hard to believe.
Right. Yeah, it's true. And Kevin's plan works almost perfectly up until the very end, where he goes over to his neighbor's house, which is full of water because the faucets are still running, and they catch him. They didn't follow him. They came around and caught him.
Yeah, they went
before he could. I don't know what he had already called the cops, so I don't really know what he was planning on doing there, what kind of trap he had at that house set up for them. But he's saved, of course, so they hang him up by his collar on the coat hook or whatever. And I love how they're like, we're going to do everything you did to us. You're going to bash his face in with an iron. Set his hair on fire. And then Old Man Marley comes and saves the day, which we haven't talked about. Old Man. Is that his name, Marley? I was like, that's from Christmas Story. It is Marley. Christmas Carol, I should say. But yeah, so I really like that actor a lot. I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything else. But Roberts Blossom, who plays Marley, does a great job because he looks actually kind of intimidating when you first see him.
Yeah, he looks scary.
When when Buzz is talking about how he killed all the, those people and everything.
With a shovel.
You kind of buy it. But then when we meet him in the church and he's talking to Kevin, he's like such a soft-spoken, kind man, So I think that actor did a fantastic. They casted him perfectly, or cast him perfectly, I should say.
I agree.
This scene's on my TV at the moment, and I have to talk about it real quick because it was one of my absolute favorite scenes when I was a kid because I just thought it was amazing. Is when Kevin has all the mannequins and the Michael Jordan cutout going on the train, and they're dancing to rocking around the Christmas tree or whatever. That's just, I loved that scene as a kid. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah,
he's got all the rope like attached to his arms and legs and everything. It's always funny to me that Catherine O'Hara, she gets to the house like a mere minutes before the rest of her family does. She tried to get home to her son as fast as she could, and if she had just taken that Friday flight or whatever it was that they originally offered, she would have gotten home in the exact same time. Essentially,
she went through all that trouble for nothing. I noticed that on this watch. I was like, it was awfully convenient. Like they show up right after you got there, and you went through hell and high water to get there. When all you had to do was wait a couple minutes.
Who knows how much money she spent too? Because she took like a few different flights. She had to bribe people to like take a spot on their flight. And then I don't think John Candy charged her anything, but she still had to take quite a few flights and all that stuff. So yeah, but I can, totally understand. You forget your kid at home, you're going to try to do anything you can to get back to that kid.
Yeah.
So, one other scene I want to talk about. I have no idea if this is true, but I read somewhere that when Kevin goes grocery shopping, that little banter between him and the cashier was supposedly improvised. Which, if that's true, I don't know if that's. I'd have to I'll need to watch this with the commentary to see if they talk about it. But yeah, supposedly, I think they had asked the cashier to just ask him some questions to see like how he would respond, and his response of, "I can't tell you that. Why not? Because you're a stranger." Like that was just, it's just like perfect.
It's the way he said stranger that makes it. Because you're a stranger,
right. So I kind of hope it's true, but I don't know. I don't know if it actually is, because I can see John Hughes writing that. But
fun fact: he got $19 worth of groceries in that scene. Today, those same groceries would be $72.
Wow.
Inflation is no joke, sir.
Inflation, yeah, that's true. So the 12 pizzas they order in the beginning of the movie, that's $122.50.
Yeah,
I wonder how much those would be in $2023.
It depends on where you get it and when you get it. If you got a discount, because yesterday I got pizza for $11, a large 2-topping pizza. I spent $11, but I had a discount code. So
yeah, right.
Ordinarily, it probably would have cost me like $15 at least.
That's true. Most of the time, we try to do like takeout because you can get carry out because you can get it cheaper, and obviously you don't have to pay the delivery costs and all that stuff. But
But
usually,
they have
like Papa John's.
specific. Yeah, I had Papa John's. They had a discount for carry out.
Yeah, exactly. They have like a $7.99 large or something, one topping for carry out deal. They got No, this is not. We are not paid by Papa John's. We're just.
We just really like pizza.
We just like pizza. Send us your pizza. Well, all right, Stu. So I'm very curious, since you don't have the nostalgic attachment to this film, what would you rate Home Alone?
I would rate Home Alone 4.5 golden houses. 4.5 golden houses. You know what? I'd like to change that. I'm going to make it an even 5. Because although I don't have any, I won't say any, although I don't have the nostalgia that other people have, it's a near perfect movie. I can't deny that. So
it's true.
5 out of 5 golden houses.
Well, I was sitting here about to say I'm tempted to give it 5, and I was going to go 4.5 as well. But I mean, geez, I think I got to go 5 as well. So I'm going to give it 5 Little Nero pizzas.
Yeah.
5 out of 5.
Burnt Little Nero pizzas with
that's right. With milk, of course, with a side of milk.
And 5
absolutely right.
2 liters of Pepsi.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Home Alone. You can always let us know at cinemaheroes.com. You can always leave us a comment on our Instagram or tweet at us or whatever it's called now. Both handles are at Cinema Heroes. You can also leave us a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Leave a comment down below what you think about Home Alone. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to hear from you however you want to reach out to us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jake Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And have a wonderful Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. Happy holidays if you do not.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
You know what's interesting? Merry Christmas, you filthy animal is like I've seen Home Alone shirts that say Home Alone or whatever, and then it says Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. But that's from Home Alone 2. Yeah, but I think it gets associated with this movie every now and again.
Yeah, because he says a similar line. I can't remember what it is, but he says
in this one it's keep the change, you filthy animal. That's the line from this movie.
Yeah, that's what it is.
All right, bye.